Hey, we are back again for part two. So now we're going to practice using these strategies instead of just looking at them. And we are going to do so with the short story, The Stolen Party. So you should have two things with you. The first is what's on my screen right now, which is the sentence starters for the cognitive strategies. You'll see for each of them, it has the title of the strategy and then those same sentence starters. Doesn't mean you need to start the sentence this way when you use these strategies, but it is a useful way to have a frame in terms of your thinking. The other thing you need is the text, which is The Stolen Party. You should have that as well, printed or on your screen, doesn't really matter. It's by Liliana Hecker. And what we're going to do to go through this is first, I'm going to focus on the first page. And what I'm going to do is stop and use cognitive strategies while I read you the first page. Then for the next page, I'm going to read to you and I'm going to stop at a certain point and see what strategy you think I should use. From there, you're going to read the remainder and you're going to insert strategies yourself. And to show how you do that, you're either going to annotate the page, write it down. You could just do sticky notes with what you did and where. But you're going to practice using these strategies. And it's going to feel a little strange at first. But I promise the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And then it just becomes second nature as part of your reading. So let's go ahead and get started with The Stolen Party. As soon as she arrived, she went straight to the kitchen to see if the monkey was there. It was. What a relief! She wouldn't have liked to admit that her mother had been right. Monkeys at a birthday? Her mother had sneered. Get away with you, believing any nonsense you're told. She was cross, but not because of the monkey, the girl thought. It's just because of the party. I don't like you going, she told her. It's a rich people's party. Rich people go to heaven too, said the girl, who studied religion at school. Get away with heaven, said her mother. I'm going because I've been invited, she said, and I've been invited because Luciana is my friend. So there. Oh, yes, your friend, her mother grumbled. She paused. Listen, Rosaria, she said at last. That one's not your friend. You know what you are to them? The maid's daughter. That's what. Rosaria blinked hard. She wasn't going to cry. Then she yelled, Shut up. You know anything about being friends. Every afternoon, she used to go to Luciana's house, and they would both finish their homework while Rosaria's mother did the cleaning. They had their tea in the kitchen, and they told each other secrets. Rosaria loved everything in the big house, and she also loved the people who lived there. I'm going because it will be the most lovely party in the whole world. Luciana told me it would be. There will be a magician, and he will bring a monkey and everything. I'm going to pause here and use the strategy of monitoring. So when we talked about monitoring, that is stopping and seeing if you're getting lost, and then maybe connecting that to clarifying to try and figure it out. So I got lost here because the beginning of this story, she went straight into the kitchen to see if a monkey was there, which is strange enough, I think, a monkey in a kitchen. But then we go into this conversation with Rosaria and her mother. And I got lost because at first I thought this conversation was happening in the kitchen, but the more that I read, I don't think this conversation is happening in the kitchen. So now what I'm thinking is here is now, right? Like this happening now to Rosaria. She went to the kitchen to see if the monkey was there. And everything else, this conversation part between her mother about Luciana and the party is in the past. So it happened before. So I'm trying to clarify here the timeline because when I was first reading, I thought this was all happening at once. But the more that I kept going and we didn't get back to the monkey until this part, I realized, no, that couldn't have been right. So I needed to stop and go back to the start here to figure out exactly what is happening. So we have the timeline of what's happening now, and then we have like a flashback. She's thinking now about that conversation with her mother. It's also given us a lot of information, which we'll talk about in a minute because I'm going to summarize at the end here. But now I think I'm clear that this conversation with her mother is in the past, but what's happening now is she's going to the party. So let's continue reading here. The mother swung around to take a good look at her child and pompously put her hands on her hips. Monkeys at a birthday, she said. Get away with you, believing any nonsense you're told. Rosaria was deeply offended. She thought it unfair of her mother to accuse other people of being liars simply because they were rich. Rosaria wanted to be rich, of course. If one day she managed to live in a beautiful place, would her mother stop loving her? She felt very sad. She wanted to go to that party more than anything else in the world. I'll die if I don't go, she whispered, almost without moving her lips. And she wasn't sure whether she'd been heard. But on the morning of the party, she discovered that her mother had starched her Christmas dress. And in the afternoon, after washing her hair, her mother rinsed it in apple vinegar so that it would be all nice and shiny. Before going out, Rosaria admired herself in the mirror with her white dress and glossy hair and thought she looked terribly pretty. So I'm going to stop there. And the second strategy I'm going to use is summarizing. So remember, the point here is to stop ourselves throughout the story and make sure we've understood everything that's happening. And a lot of things have just happened, or at least a lot of information has been given to us about what's happening. So I want to stop here and summarize. So overall, we have the main character of Rosaria. Rosaria wants to go to a party at Luciana's house. Luciana is someone she feels is her friend and has invited her to this party that's going to be a super awesome party. There's a magician and a monkey, and it's just going to be, it's going to be a party. But Rosaria's mother doesn't think she should go to the party because from her view, she is not friends with Luciana. Rosaria's mother is the maid at Luciana's house. So Rosaria comes with her when she goes to clean Luciana's house. And so they are the same age. And to Rosaria, it's a friendship, but to her mother, she's not so sure. However, her mother still helped her get ready in probably her best dress. It says her Christmas dress. Washes her hair, makes it all nice and shiny. She thinks she looks beautiful. So even if her mother originally seemed like she was going to say she couldn't go to the party, she is going to the party. Do want to make one connection here too. Bring this up again. So tapping prior knowledge or making connections. After talking about this, I can't help but see in my mind The Princess and the Frog, the beginning of the story where Tiana and her mother are at, what's her name? I don't know her name. Charlotte's house. And Tiana and Lottie are very good friends, even though really the nature of their relationship is that Tiana's mother is the maid. So just a connection that came up in my mind as I was reading this. And that's what happens to us as readers. We can connect beyond the story. And it's important to acknowledge those things because, again, that builds our network of understanding. So for our second part, starting here from Senora Inez, I'm going to read to the bottom of the page, page 2. And so while I'm reading, you don't have to stop me while I'm reading, but I'm going to stop at the end and then have you give me a strategy and tell me a place that you would have used it. Okay? Senora Inez also seemed to notice. As soon as she saw her, she said, "How lovely you look today, Rosaria." Rosaria gave her starched skirt a slight toss with her hands and walked into the party with a firm step. She said hello to Luciana and asked about the monkey. Luciana put on a secretive look and whispered into Rosaria's ear, "He's in the kitchen, but don't tell anyone because it's a surprise." Rosaria wanted to make sure. Carefully, she entered the kitchen, and there she saw it, deep in thought, inside its cage. It looked so funny that the girl stood there for a while watching it, and later, every so often, she would slip out of the party unseen and go and admire it. Rosaria was the only one allowed into the kitchen, Signora Inez had said. You, yes, but not the others. They're much too boisterous. They might break something. Rosaria had never broken anything. She even managed the jug of orange juice, carrying it from the kitchen into the dining room. She held it carefully and didn't spill a single drop. And Signora Inez had said, Are you sure you can manage a jug as big as that? Of course she could manage. She wasn't a Butterfingers like the others, like that blonde girl with the bow in her hair. As soon as she saw Rosaria, the girl with the bow had said, And you? Who are you? I'm a friend of Luciana, said Rosaria. No, said the girl with the bow. You're not a friend of Luciana because I'm her cousin and I know all of her friends, and I don't know you. So what? Said Rosaria. I come here every afternoon with my mother and we do our homework together. You and your mother do your homework together? Asked the girl, laughing. I and Luciana do our homework together, said Rosaria, very seriously. The girl with the bow shrugged her shoulders. That's not being friends, she said. Do you go to school together? No. So where do you know her from? Said the girl, getting impatient. Rosaria remembered her mother's words perfectly. She took a deep breath. I'm the daughter of the employee, she said. Her mother had said very clearly, if someone asks you, say you're the daughter of the employee. That's all, she told her. She also told her to add, and be proud of it. But Rosaria thought that never in her life would she dare say something of that sort. So we're going to pause right there. And I would love for you to give me a spot in which you could use a strategy, what strategy you could use, and just talk me through it the way that I just did. So I will have Ms. Karsten pause me here so that you all can discuss. All right, so remember that I mentioned in the first video that there is no right or wrong. There's no order that we go in. There's no specific thing I'm looking for. It's really about building an understanding of your own thinking. So whatever you came up with or wherever you see a strategy that you could use or how you'd use it, it's correct. As long as you're using the strategies and you're thinking about the reading, then you're doing it right. So for our final section here, from 3 on, you are going to read, and I want you to represent 4 times in which you used a strategy in the reading. So again, that could be annotating, that could be writing on a sticky, that could be just inserting, if you have the document pulled up, it really doesn't matter. But at the end of class, we're gonna stop and talk about one of the places you used a strategy. And then to start our next class, we will talk about this story and its meaning and what you thought of this story, because I'm not going to read it for you to the end. I want you to practice these strategies using this story, and I don't want to spoil the ending for you. So read the final 3 pages, come up with 4 places that you could use 4 strategies. So I don't want you just using clarify over and over and over. Okay, so stretch yourself. All right, have a great time reading the rest of The Stolen Party.